Our top story today from the gatewaypundit.com. It looks like Trump will actually be targeting the bad people in the government. We're laying out his new plan to save America here on the Gateway Pundit's Week in Review. My name is Elijah Schaffer, and this is the Gateway Pundit's Week in Review, where we usually cover the top 5 stories of the last 24 hours. But on this special Sunday episode, we are releasing Trump's plan to save America, some of which was announced before the race, some that was just announced after he was nominated to be the next president of the United States. Don't you love the sound of that, folks? Well, of course, one of the videos that we know is one of the main reasons why people did not vote for Kamala. If you look at the reasons that voters cared about, I think I was a little bit wrong on this. Apparently, people really care about the trans issue, and that's a really big issue. In fact, it was one of the top 3 issues of why people voted for Trump in swing categories, including also in minority categories. Isn't that a wild thing? So check this out. Here's what Trump said he's going to do in response to the medical industrial complex targeting kids.
Here's my plan to stop the chemical, physical, and emotional mutilation of our youth. On day 1, I will revoke Joe Biden's cruel policies on so-called gender-affirming care. Ridiculous. A process that includes giving kids puberty blockers, mutating their physical appearance, and ultimately performing surgery on minor children. Can you believe this? I will sign a new executive order instructing every federal agency to cease all programs that promote the concept of sex and gender transition at any age. I will then ask Congress to permanently stop federal taxpayer dollars from being used to promote or pay for these procedures and pass a law prohibiting child sexual mutilation in all 50 states. It'll go very quickly. I will declare that any hospital or healthcare provider that participates in the chemical or physical mutilation of minor youth will no longer meet federal health and safety standards for Medicaid and Medicare and will be terminated from the program immediately. Furthermore, I will support the creation of a private right of action for victims to sue doctors who have unforgivably performed these procedures on minor children. The Department of Justice will investigate Big Pharma and the big hospital networks to determine whether they have deliberately covered up horrific long-term side effects of sex transitions in order to get rich at the expense of vulnerable patients, in this case, very vulnerable. We will also investigate whether Big Pharma or others have illegally marketed hormones and puberty blockers, which are in no way licensed or approved for this use. My Department of Education will inform states and school districts that if any teacher or school official suggests to a child that they could be trapped in the wrong body, they will be faced with severe consequences, including potential civil rights violations for sex discrimination.
Yeah, so that's actually pretty wild, right? You look at what's going on here, and he says directly, we're going after the medical cartels. We're going after the people who abuse children. And that is a winning platform to say that I'm going after people who are targeting kids. Everybody cares about children. Everybody wants kids to do well. So when you're going after children, you're targeting them. My question to you, Donald Trump, is why have adults in this country not done this sooner? It's about damn time we actually come together and fight for our young. Now, one of the main things I want to talk to you guys about is something important. Many of you know that obviously due to all the food we eat, our lifestyle changes, a lot of us are lacking energy. But I saw a video the other day from Chuck Norris, and he was kicking butt. And I found out that he was actually in his 80s. But the crazy thing was he was working out, he was staying active, and he looked great. What's even more shocking is that he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by making just one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger, her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Now, Chuck made a special video that explains everything. Make sure that you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/pundit. That's chuckdefense.com/pundit, or by clicking on the link in the description below to watch the video. It'll change the way that you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/pundit. Click the link in the description below. You won't believe how simple it is. As I mentioned, he also laid out some crazy plans. So this is a bit longer of a video, but Trump literally says, okay, here's how I'm going to restore free speech in America, right? A lot of people say that they want to restore free speech. They say we got to fight against censorship. We got to bring back, the rule of law. Well, Trump says, damn well straight we will. Check this out.
If we don't have free speech, then we just don't have a free country. It's as simple as that. If this most fundamental right is allowed to perish, then the rest of our rights and liberties will topple, just like dominoes, one by one. They'll go down. That's why today I'm announcing my plan to shatter the left-wing censorship regime and to reclaim the right to free speech for all Americans. And reclaim is a very important word in this case because they've taken it away. In recent weeks, bombshell reports have confirmed that a sinister group of deep state bureaucrats, Silicon Valley tyrants, left-wing activists, and depraved corporate news media have been conspiring to manipulate and silence the American people. They have collaborated to suppress vital information on everything from elections to public health. The censorship cartel must be dismantled and destroyed, and it must happen immediately. And here's my plan. First, within hours of my inauguration, I will sign an executive order banning any federal department or agency from colluding with any organization, business, or person to censor, limit, categorize, or impede the lawful speech of American citizens. I will then ban federal money from being used to label domestic speech as mis or disinformation. And I will begin the process of identifying and firing every federal bureaucrat who has engaged in domestic censorship, directly or indirectly, whether they are the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of Health, Human Services, the FBI, the DOJ, no matter who they are. Second, I will order the Department of Justice to investigate all parties involved in the new online censorship regime, which is absolutely destructive and terrible, and to aggressively prosecute any and all crimes identified. These include possible violations of federal civil rights law, campaign finance laws, federal election law, securities law, and antitrust laws, the Hatch Act, and a host of other potential criminal, civil, regulatory, and constitutional offenses. To assist in these efforts, I am urging House Republicans to immediately send preservation letters, and we have to do this right now, to the Biden administration, the Biden campaign, and every Silicon Valley tech giant, ordering them not to destroy evidence of censorship. Third, upon my inauguration as president, I will ask Congress to send a bill to my desk revising Section 230 to get big online platforms out of censorship business. From now on, digital platforms should only qualify for immunity protection under Section 230 if they meet high standards of neutrality, transparency, fairness, and non-discrimination. We should require these platforms to increase their efforts to take down unlawful content such as child exploitation and promoting terrorism, while dramatically curtailing their power to arbitrarily restrict lawful speech. Fourth, we need to break up the entire toxic censorship industry that has arisen under the false guise of tackling so-called mis- and disinformation. The federal government should immediately stop funding all nonprofits and academic programs that support this authoritarian project. If any U.S. university is discovered to have engaged in censorship activities or election interferences in the past, such as flagging social media content for removal of blacklisting, those universities should lose federal research dollars and federal student loan support for a period of 5 years and maybe more. We should also enact new laws laying out clear criminal penalties for federal bureaucrats who partner with private entities to do an end run around the Constitution and deprive Americans of their First, Fourth, and Fifth Amendment rights. In other words, deprive them of their vote. And once you lose those elections, and once you lose your borders like we have, you no longer have a country. Furthermore, to confront the problems of major platforms being infiltrated by legions of former deep staters and intelligence officials, there should be a 7-year cooling off period before any employee of the FBI, CIA, NSA, DNI, DHS, or DOD is allowed to take a job at a company possessing vast quantities of U.S. user data. Fifth, the time has finally come for Congress to pass a digital Bill of Rights. This should include a right to digital due process. In other words, government officials should need a court order to take down online content, not send information requests such as the FBI was sending to Twitter. Furthermore, when users of big online platforms have their content or accounts removed, throttled, shadow banned, or otherwise restricted, no matter what name they use, they should have the right to be informed that it's happening, the right to a specific explanation of the reason why, and the right to a timely appeal. In addition, all users over the age of 18 should have the right to opt out of content moderation and curation entirely and receive an unmanipulated stream of information if they so choose. The fight for free speech is a matter of victory or death for America and for the survival of Western civilization itself. When I am president, this whole rotten system of censorship and information control will be ripped out of the system at large. There won't be anything left. By restoring free speech, we'll begin to reclaim our democracy and save our nation. Thank you, and God bless America.
So what he was saying is absolutely fundamental, right? So he's not just going like, oh, well, I'm a politician and I'm going to fight for your right to free speech. He's going, look, when you impede on people's free speech politically, you are impeding on their vote. I like that. I like the packaging of that. And that is illegal. That's a violation of their individual human rights and their civil liberties in our country. And you cannot do that as a company. We don't let you do that. You can't tell black people you can't buy things at Target, and you can't tell people because you're Republican that your videos can't be seen by people. It's just not how it works. Now, to remind you about what we had in before this, John Kerry, a part of the Biden administration here, he's the climate czar. Here he was at the World Economic Forum just this year, talking about how the First Amendment, free speech, was one of the most frustrating things to the administration. Like this is listen to this. This is what he was saying this year.
And I think the dislike of and anguish over social media is just growing and growing and growing. And it's part of our problem, particularly in democracies, in terms of building consensus around any issue. It's really hard to govern today. You can't, there's no, the referees we used to have to determine what's a fact and what isn't a fact have kind of, been eviscerated to a certain degree. And people go and people self-select where they go for their news or for their information. And then you just get into a vicious cycle. So it's really, really hard, much harder to build consensus today than at any time in the 45, 50 years I've been involved in this. And there's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence. So what we need is to win the ground, win the right to govern by hopefully having, winning enough votes that you're free to be able to implement change. Now, obviously, there are some people in our country who are prepared to implement change in other ways, and so that's really dangerous.
You're questioning really if democracy can survive unregulated social media.
I think democracies are very challenged right now, and have not proven they can move fast enough or big enough to deal with the challenges that we are facing. And to me, that is part of what this race, this election is all about. Will we break the fever in the United States?
Yeah, what's crazy about that is he was saying, Look, the election is all about censorship. That's when I watched this video a long time ago, and I just want to bring this up because he was saying we are actually in a fight of whether the democracies cannot keep up with what we want to do, aka democracy or people's voting power is limited by the fact that we want to make sure that they can't say what they want to say, that we can restrict their free speech, that we can accomplish what we want to accomplish. That being said, many of you know that, quinolidine is obviously something that we've been talking about a lot on this show. And if you're suffering from daily aches and pains, please listen right now closely. Top medical experts have unveiled a natural pain reliever that is changing the way Americans fight pain. 100% drug-free quinolidine is the only solution in the world that optimizes your body's natural painkillers, called endorphins. Now, providing full body relief without dangerous pills or known side effects to over 1 million Americans and hundreds of professional athletes, including UFC fighters, have already embraced quinolidine's pain relief power. Best of all, quinolidine is legal worldwide, certified drug-free, and does not cause side effects, grogginess, or addiction. After 14 years of clinical research, it has been proven safe and effective, backed by thousands of successful use cases from other Americans just like you. Best of all, today, you can try quinolidine for less than $1 per day. This is your opportunity to finally live pain-free. Click the link below to try the only quinolidine product in the world risk-free for full 90 days. This private link and special discount expires at midnight tonight. Go to trycono.com/gateway. That's trycono.com/GATEWAY. Experience daily pain relief with quinolidine. You have nothing to lose but your pain. That being said, in interesting news, so this was before the election, but I think we should hear from JD Vance because JD Vance did lay out sort of their plan, and there's about 4 more videos, but this show's a little bit shorter, so we'll just watch this one where he sort of lays out the 3-step plan of what Trump plans to do post-election. Watch.
Trump's main campaign platforms, one of the main things that he talks about, and of course, I think he learned in some ways the hard way during his first 4 years in office, is the president recognizes that if you have people in your government who you tell to do something and they disobey you, that's not like checks and balances. They're part of your government. The check and balance is the House, the Senate, the judiciary, right? If the people in your own government aren't obeying you, you have got to get rid of them and replace them with people who are responsive to what the president is trying to do. If you don't have that, you don't have a real democratic accountability.
You've got to be a nut cutter because that's the system at stake.
That's right.
That's democratic control. How do voters have any control over their government if the people they elect have no control?
That's exactly right, man. And again, it's we have to sort of remind ourselves that it's real people who suffer because of this, right? There are Americans who are dead because the Joint Chiefs of Staff didn't listen to the President of the United States when he said you need to do troop redeployments out of Syria. There are veterans who are dead because the VA does not function as well as it could because the president needs to be able to fire, again, the small number of people who aren't doing their job. And that same story repeats itself, rinse and repeat through the entire American government. You have got to have basic democratic accountability. And I think, most Americans recognize, look, we're fine with, bureaucrats making a reasonable salary. We're fine with people having a good life, but they've got to do their job, right? When you're in public service, you've got to do your job. And whether you're an elected official or an unelected bureaucrat, if you're not doing your job, you got to get out there and make way for somebody who will.
So if you guys win and you start firing people who are acting against orders of their commander-in-chief and against the expressed will of voters, the New York Times will call it a fascist takeover.
That's exactly right.
So the question is, do you care?
Well, I think we have to not care. Now, you have to care about public opinion, of course, because you have to actually make the case to the American people.
But if you're acting on behalf of the public,
you have to say, look, it's what's so funny about it is it's the opposite, right? Real democracy is when the elected leaders the voters elect actually make the decisions in the government. Right. Fascism, if it's anything, it's that the voters don't get any say in how their government actually operates. So I think you have to do it. And look, man, I've been in politics all of 2 years, but there are all of these really subtle ways in which the media, the tech sector, the people who call the shots try to manipulate the American public and manipulate political leadership into not doing the things the American people actually want. So here, let me give you an example. Mark this down. I guarantee in 18 months or so, we're going to have, this is going to be prophetic. So right now, according to public opinion polling, 65% of Americans, give or take, support mass deportations, meaning 25 million people here, you've got to send some of them back to where they came from, okay? That's a common sense issue. 2/3 of Americans, give or take, support it. In 18 months, there will be media stories and there will be public opinion polls to back it up that actually Americans do not support mass deportations, that Donald Trump is doing all of these terrible things and he has to stop. It's inhumane, it's evil, and the American public don't support it. The same people who put those public opinion polls together are the same people who say, for example, that Donald Trump was going to lose Wisconsin by 17 points. Remember that? 3 days before the 2020 election, Donald Trump was supposed to lose Wisconsin by 17 points. And set to the side all of the debates about what happened in 2020, Wisconsin was basically a tied election. So these guys use public polls, they use the media, not even just to manipulate public opinion, but to manipulate our leadership about what public opinion actually says.
So how does that happen? So those polls are fake, is what you're saying?
Oh, absolutely, they're fake.
Yeah, so he said, look, we don't care. We're going to do what the people set us out to do, and that's to take care of the American people. And we're going to do it by prosecuting, of course, the deep state. We're going to fight for free speech. We're going to fight for Americans. If you love this plan, make sure to drop a comment down below. Give me your feedback. If you wish they would change something, I'd like to hear that as well. And if you want more videos like this, don't forget to follow us directly at thegatewaypundit.com or subscribe here on Rumble. I'm Elijah Schaffer. Have a great rest of the week, and may God bless the United States of America. I'm signing out.